try and bribe me, and one of those bribes was with point shoes, which I would not suggest any teacher do that for their student. And it did nothing because I didn't know what point shoes were, so it wasn't like I was like, I can't wait to get my first pair of point shoes. I was like, okay, I don't know what those are. And I ended up going to the ballet school after a couple of weeks at the Boys and Girls Club, and I went on point after, I think it was 2 or 3 months of training, which is not safe for most people. Going on point and getting your first pair of point shoes is so extremely special, but it can be very dangerous if you are not ready. And there are no shortcuts in the ballet technique to get to that point. With that said, I naturally was very strong, and my teacher put me on point because she knew that my muscles were capable of holding me in the right position. So when I went on point, it kind of just happened very organically, and I was just up there, and it wasn't an issue at all for me. But 4 years later, after 4 years of training, I became a professional with American Ballet Theater, and that's when I realized that there were so many holes in my technique and in my stamina when it came to my footwork. So it's definitely not something that I would recommend. And again, there are no shortcuts in the ballet technique for it. Getting to that point where you're on your point shoes and be strong enough to not hurt yourself. When I started out, my first pair of point shoes that I really wore for a long period of time were blocks. And back in blocks, as you were saying, it kind of came full circle, and I'm wearing blocks again. But when I first started out with my first teacher, I trained with her for 2 years. And she kind of just let me put everything in my shoes so it didn't hurt. So I would wear a lot of padding and Band-Aids. And when I went to my second teacher that really kind of cleaned up my technique before I joined ABT, she said, no pads allowed in my school. So I had to kind of start from scratch. And I understand now at this point in my career, she could tell when I was in my point shoes if I had snuck a pad in there. She could see the way that I articulated my foot, and I get it now. She didn't want anything between my foot and the shoe so that I could really articulate my toes. I remember it's been, I don't know, over 15 years now, or 8 something, since I've worn pads in my shoes, but I remember losing feeling in my toes sometimes from having pads in there. And that is something you don't want. You want to be in complete control and feel your foot in the shoe. So it took time, and I started out with paper towels and then slowly made myself which is a nice thing to have too because it's very thin, but it's still gave me some padding in there. So I'll just show you a little bit of how I incorporate in my shoes. So I wear axioms, and that's another thing everyone's always asking, what point shoes do you wear? And I kind of don't want to tell them because it's not about just trying to point shoes that I wear them. I think this is what works for my foot, and it's not for everyone. And I have very narrow feet. I have my first 2 toes are pretty much the same length. They're long, and then they really taper off. So I need a very tapered shoe, and these just work really well with me. So I usually start with just putting jet glue in the tips of the toe to start with. I'll step on them just to kind of soften the box a little bit so I can really get my foot in there. And then I bend them just right at the top because I have a high arch, so I want it to mold right to where my arch goes. So I bend it both ways, this way, and then I literally just stick my foot in there with nothing on. And I go through maybe, I think 10 pair a week. I sew a new pair of point shoes every single morning before class and wear them in class. I keep probably between 5 and 8 pair of point shoes in my dance bag that I just alternate depending on what it is I'm doing. And like Leslie was saying, my first swan lane, not too long ago, I went through 4 pair in one show. And you just have to kind of be ready because you never know what's going to happen with the lights, with the heat, with your adrenaline, and you can just go through shoes in a way that you don't go through them in rehearsals. And also I think that it helps to have added support when you're in a situation where you're dealing with elements that, again, you don't experience in the rehearsal studio. Strange things happen sometimes when you get on stage that you can't control, and it's nice to have just options and support. So I feel like at this point in my career, my point shoes are like a second skin for me. And they're comfortable, and people make fun of me is that I'm always in my point shoes. I wear them around like slippers or like in between rehearsals, and that's because they fit me really well. So you can see that they really just form really nicely to the shape of your foot.
So the way she puts her elastics and ribbons, that's also depends on your feet.
Right.
Everybody puts different types of elastic, and some people don't even wear elastics on their heels.
So I like to do a crisscross so that it's pulling up on the instep, right where my instep is there, to really just give me added support because I have really flexible ankles, and I just really want to make sure that the shoe's going to stay on and it's going to really support. They really just, I feel like I'm standing on my toes, and there's nothing in between. It's like I'm just up there and I'm held, and again, it doesn't allow me, if it's too big, to kind of sink into the shoe, but it makes me feel really just long and elongated and pulled up.
Misty, do they wear those toe pads in the company?
Yeah, people do.
Because we didn't have them, and I'm confused by them. I don't know if they're good or bad.
I don't know. I mean, some people, I think once you get to a certain point, if you're used to wearing them, it's really difficult, especially as a professional. There's no time to kind of go through that process. You're in rehearsal, 8 hours a day, and I guess it's a little late for some people.
So I'm just wondering if you can feel, because one of the things about wearing point shoes that I see as a teacher, and a lot of my students complain about, that when they point their leg in the air or they jump in them, the foot doesn't point in the point shoe. And in ballet slippers, they're beautiful. And they get their point shoes on, and I'm wondering if it's the toe pads.
Sometimes the shoes do that. For some reason, I don't know if you can.
It just depends on the strength of the shoe.
Right, and the strength of the foot.
Because I think the demands are so difficult now on everybody. Everybody wants a stronger shoe that's going to last longer, and they want to be able to have it, to get up there and balance and just stay up there forever. But the price is that you don't get the malleability. Then the other thing about the toe pads that you may not have thought of, I mean, I think about this because I have teachers come in, oh my God, and they work me over on the phone, and they're like, the heel is baggy, the heel is baggy. I'm like, well, maybe if your dancer took off that big toe pad, I wouldn't have to fit them 2 sizes bigger. Do you have anything special done to your shoe? I mean, do you have the sides cut down?
I don't really have it.
See, she doesn't need it because it fits her foot. Because if you wear a big pad, then what you end up doing is you fit the pad, you don't fit the foot.
But we found a good use for the big toe pad.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes you have 2 different size feet. So it could be like a half a size or a quarter size smaller than the other shoe. Now, if you're in a company, you can order, or if it's a half a size, I think you can order 2 different pairs, right? For the quarter size, they don't make them. So you can wear a bigger toe pad in the shoe, get the larger shoe that fits the larger foot, and put the larger toe pad in the foot that's smaller.
Now, there are different versions of that pad. Some of the new pads are thinner. Some of the new pads are thinner.
Yeah, and you can get thinner, so you don't have to get the really thick ones. And you want your feet to build up calluses. Because it protects your
Again, I think without having something between your foot and the shoe, when it's extended, it allows it, it should have the exact same look when it's in the air.
And one other thing, when sometimes some of my students have shoes ready, so they wear their old soft shoes, and they're too soft, and it's dangerous. They can get stress fractures. If you don't have your shoes sewn, and you don't do the point class. Don't come in with shoes that